In this video, I'm going to be changing the transmission fluid on my 2005 Honda Pilot. For this, I'll be using a torque wrench, some socket extensions, a 17mm socket, some gloves, 4 liters of Honda branded automatic transmission fluid, which is DW1. I do have a washer for the drain plug, an oil pan, some shop rags, and 3 funnels, which I'll explain later. Now for this, because I have a sloped driveway, I've got my vehicle on some ramps to make it level. Now the very first thing we're going to do is remove the fill plug for the transmission fluid, and it is located right here, so it is very hard to reach, and this is why you need the socket extensions. So as you can see, I'm using 2 different socket extensions to get down deep, and this should come out without any issue. One point to note: if the engine or the area near the bolt is dirty, you may want to wipe it off so that nothing gets down into the transmission when you're removing the filler plug. Now the filler plug also has a washer on it. I did not get a new one, so I did reuse this washer. The transmission drain plug is actually located very front and center, and it is extremely easy to reach. It takes a 3/8 inch drive for a socket or your torque wrench, and you should be able to take that off without issue. One point to note when you're removing the drain plug is there's actually 4 liters of transmission fluid, so it does come flying out rather fast, and it will hit the subframe beside it. So my recommendation is to remove the drain plug slowly so as to avoid the large spray of transmission fluid that you're going to encounter. So we've been trying to remove it slowly. The transmission fluid did hit the subframe. And the other point to note here is if it's a windy day, you might want to hold off and do it later, or get a windscreen up, as I did get some transmission fluid on my driveway, unfortunately. So here's the drain plug. You can see, just like most drain plugs, it does have a magnet to pick up metal filings, and this one was pretty dirty. I'm just going to give it a quick wipe down before installing it, and I'm going to take the old washer off and install a new one that I got for about $4 from Honda. Now this is a bit of an optional step, but I usually use the thread sealant as well for this, because they're deep threads that put quite a bit on, and then I wipe it off with some paper towel. And one big point to note is I make sure that it's sort of on the back end, away from the magnet side of the drain plug, because I don't want the actual sealant to get mixed in with the automatic transmission fluid inside the transmission. So before installing it, I give it a good wipe to make sure there's nothing on the magnet or the forward threads of the drain plug. Before installing the drain plug, I'm just going to take some shop rags and give the area a good wipe down to make sure there's no dirt or debris prior to installing the drain plug. And now I'm going to install the drain plug. First going hand tight, and then I'm going to use the 3/8 inch drive torque wrench to bring it to the correct torque specification. The torque spec that I use for the drain plug is 36 foot-pounds. Once you have it torqued correctly, I'm just going to use the shop rags to wipe up around the drain plug so that if there is a leak, I can see where it's coming from. And also I'm going to give the frame a quick wipe down. Now normally I pour the waste fluid into the old jugs at the end of my videos, but for this I'm going to do it in the middle. And the reason is you're supposed to pour out the old fluid into a container that you can measure the volume, and then use that to benchmark how much you're going to put in of the new fluid. And again, windy day, be careful. Now for the 2005 Honda Pilot, you're supposed to do this automatic transaxle fluid change every 30,000 miles, 48,000 kilometers, or 24 months, whatever comes first. Now obviously I got all the parts for this from Honda, and the total cost for the transmission fluid and the washer was about $45 after tax. To have them do it would cost about $150. So your savings are about $100, and it'll take you approximately 30 to 45 minutes. So my estimate for the amount I got out of the transmission was 3.8 liters of transmission fluid. Now this is where I'm going to use 3 different funnels to fill it, and I assure you if you try and free pour this without the funnels, you're going to spill it everywhere. So I dropped the 2 small thin ones in there, and then I'm going to take the larger black one and just put it on top and essentially make one big pyramid of funnels, and there you can see it from the side. Now I'm going to add the fluid. Obviously I'm going to put this in fast motion so I don't bore you, but for this I'm just going to throw 3 liters in straight away. Then I'm going to go in, turn on the car, cycle through the gears, and move the fluid around a little bit, and then incrementally add the last liter. The manual I have on this says if you want to do the torque converter as well, to actually do this whole process twice. Like I said, I'm going to start the vehicle, and with the vehicle running, I'm going to cycle through each of the gears and hopefully move some of the transmission fluid around the transmission. I'm going to pull out the dipstick and see where my levels are at. And I just like to go on record as saying I absolutely hate these kind of dipsticks. But obviously I'm going to need more automatic transmission fluid. I only put in 3 liters so far, and I know that I need to be at about 3.8 liters. So there you go. It's only up to the bottom hole at this point in time. So I'm going to add about 500 milliliters again, and then go back into the vehicle and cycle through the gears with the vehicle running one more time. And having cycled through the gears, I'm going to check the levels of the transmission fluid using the dipstick. And hopefully you can see that, but it is just slightly above the upper hole in the dipstick. So it's time to remove the funnels and reinstall the transmission fluid filler plug. And just like the drain plug, prior to installation I'm going to give the filler plug a good wipe down, and because I'm going to reuse this washer, so I'm not too concerned about any leakage, I'm also going to give that a good wipe down to make sure there's no dirt or debris on it. And as you can see on the top of that is actually stamped automatic transmission fluid. So I'm going to slide the washer back on. And now I view this as sort of optional, but I do use the thread sealant on a lot of the filler and drain plug bolts. As mentioned previously, give that a good wipe down. You don't actually need too much thread sealant on the threads. Now this filler plug's in there pretty deep, so I'm going to start it by hand. Making sure I don't get any dirt or debris knocked down into the transmission. And once it's in hand tight, I'm going to bust out the torque wrench. For this, the torque specification is 33 foot-pounds, so 3 foot-pounds less than the drain plug. Anyway, once the filler plug is torqued to 33 foot-pounds, that's all there is to it. Thanks for checking out my video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.